Okay, today I wanted to share some quick and easy ideas to build fine motor skills using only a pair of scissors and a piece of paper. So often, occupational therapy providers go into schools, into the classroom, into homes, and we've got only our therapy bag with us, and we don't have a lot of materials to carry. Or maybe you are working in a setting where you're just walking into a classroom and pushing into the classroom, and you're working on materials and the therapy goals using what they've got in the classroom. And it might be something like a pair of scissors and a piece of paper. So that is really all you need to do, all you need to have on hand to work on a variety of skills. So before we start, I wanted to share a quick piece of information for you. Fine motor skills are defined as small muscle movements. These are the things that occur in the fingers and the hands, and they occur in coordination with the eyes. This is where we get the term visual motor skills. Teaching fine motor skills is similar to teaching other skills because the instructor must always try to be patient and understanding, but you're working on skills at the level of the child, so it's always individualized. And it's important to remember that fine motor skills do not develop overnight. In fact, they start to develop at birth, and at very small age. These are skills that developed over time with picking up small pieces of crumbles from the floor. When you see a baby picking at lint on the floor, that's their fine motor skills at work, to picking up bits of cereal and in the high chair, and then you start to see block building, playing with toys, and then you see children moving towards buttoning their clothes, being independent with putting on clothing, trying to tie their shoes. All of those are fine motor skills, and they develop sequentially but over time, and they kind of build on each other as well. So knowing that, I wanted to share, this is a handout that I have, but this activity that we're using this paper with, you can start to support some of that skill development. So the first thing we're going to do with our piece of paper is just use our scissors to snip the edge of the paper. We're creating a fringe here. So as we're cutting, you can see that you're holding the paper with your non-dominant hand to support the paper. You've got pinch going on, and you've got bilateral coordination. What that means is that one hand is supporting the paper and the other is managing the scissors to cut. You're working together. You have to adjust your hands. You have to cut with the scissors and coordinate both hands together in order to complete this task. Now, when we're cutting a fringe, you notice that the scissors don't go all the way closed and they don't go all the way open. That is a graded motor control, and that means that you are using precision skills in order to control when to stop squeezing the scissors to cut into the paper and when to stop with the opening motion to open the scissors. This is something that happens over time, but when you're cutting a fringe, you can instruct your students to cut like a little bit into the page, but not all the way with the scissors. And that's just one way to naturally work on that fine motor skill. So once you've got this fringe, that's just one fine motor task. Okay, the next one we're going to use, using the same fringe, we're going to work with both hands and roll up the paper and pinch it. This folding is a great fine motor task because we're working on finger isolation, which means using just one finger to point, one finger isolated from the others. We're working on neat pincer grasp, which is pinching the paper. When I pinch this paper, I'm holding it between the thumb and the finger, the pointer finger, and it's a very precise grasp because I need small motor movements in order to grasp that and rotate the paper up into a curl, into a fold. This is an activity you can You can go all the way down, or you can have students skip one and really work on isolating that finger, isolating the visual motor skills. This takes a little more precision, so it might be a way to grade up the activity. If you want to grade down the activity, which means make it easier for the student, you can have them start off by cutting a wider fringe. So when they're cutting, they would snip maybe like an inch apart. Some students benefit from a line drawn with a marker on the edge of the paper so that they can see where to cut, and it's less open-ended for them, and it's more of a structure activity in that way. Okay, so that's the second fine motor activity. You can just have them keep going down the path. If you do this yourself, you might notice that you start to feel a little bit of like sore in the palm of your hand, and that just means that you're strengthening that joint. This task is using a curved arch of the hand, and that means that you are strengthening those intrinsic muscles because they are at work with this activity, and doing the same repetitive motion over and over again. That's really strengthening the hands inside the muscles inside the hand, and that is important because we need those intrinsic muscles for tasks like manipulating small objects with your fingers, holding a pencil and writing with endurance. All of those are erasing, all of those are intrinsic tasks that use the strength of the hand, the muscles in the hand. Okay, the next one, we're going to turn this paper to the other side, and it's kind of along the same lines, only this time we are ripping. So I'm going to have, if I was having a student work on this right now, I would tell them, okay, pinch the paper, and about where the end of your finger is, that's where you're going to tear, and that way we're going to get a nice thick fringe. Tearing paper is such a great fine motor activity because you can use literally any paper. You can use scraps that come, from the mail, junk mail that comes in your mailbox. You can use cardboard paper to make it more resistive. You can use construction paper like I'm using here. You can use tissue paper to make it more difficult and require more of a refined grasp and tighter squeeze on the fingers. But when you're pinching, you are kind of rotating the wrist. You're working on wrist stability and mobility. You're working on stability in the joints of the thumb, and you're squeezing. You have to hold the edge of the paper and then ripping that. It's a great fine motor and visual motor activity. Okay, then this one with this fringe, I'm going to just fold and press. Okay, this one I'm going to do every other, just to start out. So this is another finger isolation activity. I am pushing through the paper with my hand, with my dominant hand. I'm pushing just with my index finger, and when I do that, I'm really offering a lot of heavy work, proprioceptive input through the fingers, through the joints of this finger. And that's important because this finger is involved with moving the pencil when you're holding a pencil and pencil grasp, and it's a real it's a mover with the handwriting, with moving the pencil with precision and control to form letters. So this activity is really great to work on those skills. Okay, so we've already got two sides of our paper done here with different activities. Okay, the next one, you can see this one's kind of torn. I think this was an old piece of paper that we were using for a craft or something, and one of my kids just ripped it because they wanted just a small piece. So it doesn't matter if your paper is torn like this or if you were just using the straight edge. This is just, it doesn't matter. But what I'm going to have the student do next is roll up this paper. And so with this fringe on the other side, that's okay, it doesn't matter. We're just gonna try to roll up the edge of the paper. If it tears, that's okay. You're trying to get a small roll. This is really squeezing the fingers against the thumb in opposition. You can try to have the student roll the paper as tightly as they can without getting too too wide, because the wider this roll gets, the looser it becomes. You kind of want it tight so that it's really, they're squeezing, okay? You can kind of have them crease it if that helps, but really you just want to have them working on rolling up this paper, okay? So now we have our cut fringe, we have our torn fringe, and we have our rolled edge of the paper. Okay, the next one I'm going to do, this one is again with the tearing, only what I'm doing is tearing out a little chunk of the paper. And what I want to do now is roll that paper into a little crumble. Okay, this activity is one of my favorite ones because you can make this suit the needs of the student so well. You can use different types of paper, like I was saying before, for more or less resistance. But when you're squeezing this into a little crumbled ball, you're using just the fingertips, mine of which are very dry. You can see it's that time of year, winter in Pennsylvania. But we're working on the joints positioned in a way that it is very similar to a pencil grasp and coloring, holding a crayon to color. When you're ripping like this, you're gaining all of the benefits of tearing the paper, which is, like we mentioned before, visual motor, eye-hand coordination, grasp, but this is really working on the intrinsic muscles of the hand when you're crumbling into a tiny ball. You can ask your students to crumble a very small and tight little crumble, or if they're not quite at that stage, you can have them crumble a bigger piece. So basically you want to have them have that control to tear just a small piece. You don't want that paper torn the whole way across the page. You want control and refined motions to tear just that little bite-sized chunk off, and then ask them to crumble that up. So this is another really, really great fine motor task. And then once you've got your crumbles, you can work on finger isolation to flick those, finger and thumb opposition, and strengthening of the extrinsic muscles of the finger. So that is my tips for you for using one single piece of paper. Let's see if I can zoom out here a little bit. We've got our cut fringe and folded fringe. We've got our torn and creased fringe. We've got our rolled and pinched edge. And then we've got our torn bite-sized chunks, which we then crumbled up. So this has been a really, really great fine motor workout, and I hope that it's helpful for you. If you are going to head into the classroom or the therapy clinic this week or in the coming weeks, be sure to grab a piece of paper, a pair of scissors, and some hands. That's all you need. So let me know if you do this activity, and be sure to check out the links that I have posted below. I've got some really great resources for the skills that we've talked about in this video, like visual motor skills, fine motor skills, eye-hand coordination, bilateral coordination, pincer grasp, intrinsic muscles, arch development, all of those really great things. So have fun. Bye.